Hi everybody, this is Kelly from Earth Angel Talk, and today I want to talk to you about celibacy and soul ties. Now, I have been celibate for a year and a half, and when a prospective date asks me out, I always tell them that I'm celibate, and if they want to get to know me, that would be wonderful. But you know what happens? The men usually run, and that's okay, because then they were not the man for me. And I'm quite alright with it. But you know, soul ties happen whenever we have sex. So there is no such thing as casual sex, for one. And there are spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional aspects that happen during sex. I'm going to first talk about a spiritual aspect. I read an article by Emma Gray today, and she was speaking to a professor named Jim Faust. And they were talking about how lust and love and sex affect parts of the brain. Love and sex activate an area in the brain called the striatum. It's the part of the brain which receives messages from the cerebral cortex. And they found that lust actually activates the ventral striatum, and it has to do with emotion and motivation. And then love activates the dorsal striatum. And this impacts decision-making and drug addiction. And so, you know the song by Roxy Music, Love is the Drug and I Need to Score? They knew what they were talking about, for sure. So, there's also an overlap between sexual desire and emotional love in the brain's insular cortex. So, lust can become love and vice versa. And this study has shown that there is a physical, neurological basis for getting emotionally attached after a sexual encounter, whether it's one night, 1 month, 1 year, or a lifetime. It's all the same. Once you have come together sexually, it doesn't matter the amount of time. And then I read another article at GnosticWarrior.com, and it said women may carry the DNA of all of their past sexual partners, and science can back it up. And science has actually given new meaning to one-night stands, because a one-night stand lasts a lifetime. So there really is no such thing. Whenever you're swapping semen, body fluids, and DNA with another person during a sexual encounter, you are connecting yourself to them for life. And you will have a lifelong connection, forever connected through the tree of life we call DNA. And another study showed that DNA retention to the female can affect her future unborn children. And it's actually a process called microchimerism, or MC for short. And oddly, the DNA from her previous sexual partners were present in women tested, and it was higher in women with induced abortion. So if you've had a child with someone, or you've had an abortion with someone's child, they actually can prove that the children are carrying the DNA from all of your lovers too. So this is affecting even your unborn child, not just you, when you're having these casual sexual encounters. It's like, what is that, 6 degrees of separation? There's a basis for these things that we hear about. So you have to remember that sex is sacred. It's the joining of two souls. And it's a divine union, a divine gift that two people can have this sacred covenant. And it's a spiritual act of the union of souls. And it should be regarded as such, sacred. Now on to soul ties. So, in the case of casual sex, we are sharing a very sacred part of ourselves. And it's only being shared to satisfy a physical need, whether it be you're horny, or you're lonely, or you feel you need a man, or you have to do this to have him pay for dinner, whatever the reason. It's not the sacredness that you're doing it for. So You know, we're meant to connect human beings on a soul level through sex. Or lovemaking, if you will. But what does salt and pepper say? How many men do you know that make love? Let's talk about sex, baby. So, in the Bible, that's a funny segue into talking about the Bible, but in the Bible, 1 Thessalonians, it's a hard word to say, 5:23 says that man is made up of three parts: spirit, soul, and body. The soul ties occur when we intimately bond with another person. When we have sexual intercourse with another person, we are not just joining physically, we become one. One body, one mind, one spirit, one soul. Hence a soul tie. We are bound physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally to that person, whether we want to be or not. And in Greek, joined actually means glued to. So when you join sexually with another, you become glued to them. And we all know what happens when we glue two pieces of wood together and then we pull them apart. There's irreparable damage to both pieces. And in the same way, there's irreparable damage that occurs to each person. And you know, when you pull a piece of wood apart from another piece that's been glued, you will see little parts of each of the piece of wood on the other, and they will remain there. So, simply put, your soul meshes with the other person's soul, and a little bit of each of you remains stuck to the other when you pull apart. Now, there was an article by Debbie Adebayo, and she was telling a few of the indicators of unhealthy soul ties. One of the indicators was that you allow the person you're with to abuse or misuse you and mistreat you. That is not love, and it shows an unhealthy soul tie. And that's why a lot of women who are abused physically, emotionally, mentally, they will finally get away from their abusive spouse, and they will go right back because they feel that soul tie and they just don't know how to disconnect. Another indicator is you allow, even after the relationship ends, you can't stop thinking about this person. Sorry. Often you can't get over the relationship and you hang on to it and you'll do anything to keep it going, even unhealthy behaviors. And then another indicator is after a period of time, the relationship causes you emotional pain or even depression. Or even once you've separated from the relationship, you can still feel emotional pain and depression, especially if you keep checking on them on social media and things like that. So every time you have contact with the person after the relationship's ended and you're still drawn to them, you know you still have a soul tie. And soul ties can also occur when we have close relationships to another and we love them as we love ourselves. And this is done willingly through unconditional love, just as Jesus taught us. But nowadays, most people have many soul ties because sex has become casual. It's like a sport. We have Tinder and Ashley Madison and all these other ways to hook up. And people think that they can just live their lives separately, but we all are one, and we are literally one when we're having sex with others, and we're literally one with everyone they've had sex with. So imagine that. And not only do you have soul ties, you take a little bit of their karma on as well. So, you know, it's an unhealthy soul tie brings with it torment and distractions from our life purpose. It truly does distract us, as well as hinder our future relationships. And this explains, you know, a lot. If you think about your relationships, just take a minute to ponder all your past relationships and how you behaved after and how you feel attached to the person. You know, I had this man, I told you, we were together for 14 months and then on and off for 5 years, and I was so tied to him. And he was seeing another woman, and he's like, but it's okay because you and I are friends and she and I are friends. Neither one of you are my girlfriend. And that's what actually made me stop. I'm like, no, I don't want her DNA, her energy, her karma in my being, and I don't want his anymore. If he can just casually treat people like that. I really felt special with him, and it was very painful for me. And then one day I just looked at him and I'm like, what are you doing? This has got to stop. And I just unhooked. So that brings me to, how can we be free of our soul ties? Can we remove the attachments? Well, you can never be totally free, but you can unhook or cut the cords. And one way to do that is to pray to God or your creator, your higher power, and ask that you're shown the soul ties that need to be severed. Whoever comes to mind, they're a soul tie that you need to sever or cut. I like to unhook the barb from my second chakra and my heart chakra and hand it back to the person, energetically of course, and spiritually, to do with as they please. But I give it back to them in love, and then I seal the wound on my chakra with a flower of life disc. The other way is forgiveness. Forgiveness is the greatest gift and a key to healing. Forgiveness and love are the only keys we truly need in life. But if you forgive yourself and forgive the other person for your parts and your responsibility in the relationship, I mean, we only allow to happen to us what we allow. So we have to take responsibility for our part as well as theirs. And it's very freeing to forgive both. It frees you, it removes the tie. And then you can ask in the future to be directed by divine guidance and listen to your intuition. Intuition is going within. We all know when we meet someone if there's that spark or not. And if you don't know right away and you go out with them a couple times, you definitely will know. For me, when I met that man, we had sex on the first date. I was emotionally attached to him. And then 6 months down the road, I realized I'm with a man I don't really like because I didn't know him when I became soul tied to him, physically and spiritually. And so I spent another, 8 months struggling with that, and the relationship became very ugly and unhealthy for both of us. So, you know, you can tie your soul to your creator first. There's the 3 universal laws of creation, and Jesus named these laws. Of all the commandments, he said, love God above all else, love thy neighbor as thyself, and harm none, no one. And this includes yourself. You truly must take care of yourself. And for me, that means I will be celibate until I meet that person that I want to share that sacred soul tie with. I want that spiritual union, and we come together and we're strong and we do work to help others through that union. So I'm going to quit preaching at you now, and I thought in the spirit of celibacy and romance, I was going to pull a romance card for you. Now I'm holding my phone because my iPad would not work. And I'm just going to ask the angels to please give us the romance card we need. It says this could be the one. You've already met the romantic partner you seek. Well, for those of you out there that this is